First tonight, the Social Democratic Party, a party that used to be seen as the third force in Nigerian politics, but which has gone through many bizarre twists in its attempt to travel the rocky road of Nigerian presidential polls. It all began in the last general election season after the SDP's presidential primaries in October 2018. A faction of the party, led by Professor Jerry Gana, staged what amounted to a coup attempt against the winner of the primaries, Donald Duke, going to court to question Mr. Duke's suitability to contest for the presidency. Duke eventually won the case and in January 2019 was reinstated as the SDP's presidential candidate. But he struggled to cement his hold on the party, and as he did that, along came a curveball in the shape of another tribe within the SDP suddenly aligning itself with President Buhari, the candidate of the ruling APC, the party the SDP was supposed to be challenging at the polls. Apparently disillusioned by the level of contention, discord and strife taking place in the party that he helped to found, the then SDP chairman, Chief Olu Falaye, threw in the towel and resigned. Fast forward to 2022, and another set of extraordinary developments. Amid reports last month that the SDP had collapsed its structures in Benue State for the Labour Party, this month, just a day or two ago, it emerged that 10,000 SDP members in Ekiti State have reportedly defected to the PDP. So how much of a crisis has all this ignited in the SDP, and can the party recover in time for 2023? Well, who better to attempt to answer those questions than the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party himself, Prince Adewole Adebayo, and he joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We were talking about this before we came on air. How sweltering are the political temperatures within the SDP today? Well,
our ambient temperature is good enough for us to do the work of the people.
I can see you're not sweating in any case.
Not at all. We are buoyed by the hope that we're able to bring to the Nigerian people. We are happy that our conversation is different, is elevated, and we've avoided most of the grotesque dramas that you find in many of the political parties. So we are focused on the message, and we're trying to get democracy to work for the people.
Well, that sounds almost perverse, given the introduction we just gave there. I mean, you face big internal problems, don't you? Never mind forging ahead with the presidential election. Your internal problems sound as though they're too huge for you to think about anything else at the moment. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
No, it's a wrong assessment, but it's your editorial liberty. You can get some things wrong.
Well, correct it if it's wrong. Tell us what the right thing is.
The SDP is very strong. We have no factions in the party. We had a national convention, was the best, judged the best by observers. We are running the cleanest presidential race. We have the highest number of delegates in the country from every quarter, every ward in the country. We don't have any case in court regarding our presidential nomination, regarding most of our governorship nomination. In fact, we have zero litigation at the governorship level, presidential level. We don't have elders council trying to reconcile people across. We don't have all the drama that you see in the other party. So we don't, there are thousands of people joining the party on a daily basis. Our register is swelling. Our registers can be found in INEC. You will see that we update our membership all the time. So if you look at the metric, our membership is growing at least 3 times more than it was last year. So we have no reason to worry at all.
So technically, the fact that 10,000 SDP members in Ekiti State reportedly defected to the PDP, that doesn't worry you? Because, I mean, that sounds like a body blow.
Well, the only thing that is true in everything you said is the word reportedly. It's just a report given to you. It didn't happen. So we don't have to worry about that. Our membership is intact. Nobody in our body structure has left. Our membership is there. We
So you think it's all made up then? Is
No,
it?
you see,
Why would it be made up, and why would it be against the SDP? I mean, it's in all the newspapers. Reporters down there are interviewing people who've left your party, who've defected. I mean, the PDP are planning a big event to welcome those people to the PDP. I mean, it just seems perverse that somebody would come up with all those things just to make the SDP, when in fact, technically speaking, I mean, the PDP doesn't consider itself to be hugely challenged electorally by the SDP.
Well, there are three things maybe can help in the conversation. Number one is that PDP has a lot of money for naming ceremonies, defection ceremonies, anything that can collect money, because it's a business place. So they have a lot of money bags there. So their members write proposals to them. They can get prisoners to defect to them. They can get anybody to defect to them. If there was a proposal to have Ghanaians defect to PDP, they will sponsor it. So they have that. That's how they spend their own money. And they have friends everywhere. They can buy airtime and show any macabre dance they want to do. Secondly, we know our members. Our members know us. So we know when our members have left or they haven't left. So we don't have a problem with that aspect. The third thing I want to state categorically is that the SDP is the dream party of these politicians, is their home party. They have nostalgia when they remember SDP. Whether it is the chairman of PDP, whether it is the presidential candidate of APC, whoever they are, they were once in SDP. And they always wish they were back in SDP. But the SDP is different because SDP has suffered some hiccups in the past. Because the original concept when the party was relaunched was that it was the only home of politicians. If you take Solomon La, who was the chairman of PDP when they started, you take Chief Ekweme, you take all of them down, you will say that they were in SDP. If you go to top leaders of Nigerian democracy, when we came in 1999, they were in SDP. So when the party was relaunched, it was like a second coming, any homecoming for anyone who came to the SDP. But we found out that because of the indiscipline that they have learned since 1999, especially in the PDP, they were bringing their tough fight, their personality clashes, and all of that into the SDP. That's why you had the Duke Ghana scenario.
Well, let's
both
talk
of them
about
were from PDP.
Right.
They came temporarily to SDP. They hadn't even lasted 6 months when they started their tough war. So both were expelled. And since that time...
Were they expelled or did they leave?
They were expelled. It is on record. So they were expelled. Each of them who can prove that they were not expelled, I owe them money if they can do that. So they were expelled. So when they were expelled for that indiscipline, then the party learned a lesson and said, never again are we going to allow a blanket coming to the party. We need to examine you. And you will see that in this dispensation, all of them came back again. You will have heard in the room all over the place that the now APC presidential candidate was coming to the SDP. You will see that even the Labour Party candidate now, Mr. Peter Obi, spent a lot of time trying to come to the SDP. We didn't allow.
Yeah, but Donald Duke didn't deserve. I mean, assuming what you're saying is correct. Yes. I mean, he didn't deserve to be expelled. He came into the party. He contested the primaries and he won.
He looks like a nice guy.
And even the courts decided after the challenge that he won.
Well, it looks like a nice guy, so I'm not going to say he's guilty of this or that. I'm just reporting a historical fact that they were expelled. So,
yeah, but why was he expelled?
Well, the party at that time expelled them for anti-party activity and indiscipline was in there. So now that issue is now kind of overtaken by event because they have now moved on with their lives.
Right.
They are quite not antagonistic to the SDP, so we want them to vote for us, so we're not going to be annoying them now.
Well, I mean, obviously Donald Duke is not here to defend himself, but I mean...
he's not been accused of anything.
No, I understand.
Yes.
But, I mean, it must be painful, though. I mean, let's try and be realistic and not sort of fantastical. Yes. It doesn't look like the SDP, with all the stuff that has happened, I mean, it doesn't look like it has much of a future. as far as 2023 and the presidential election is concerned? And I'm not trying to run you guys down. I'm trying to find out what you have to say to that in reaction, because that seems to be the way a lot of people are seeing the SDP. You're not one of the four main parties that are being, discussed when you used to be the third force. I mean, everybody's talking about the APC, the PDP, the Labour Party, the NNPP, and you're not amongst those parties.
Well, you see, you run your media houses. I'm a media owner. You editorialize. You have many reasons.
We don't editorialize. Let me make that clear. We analyze. There's a difference.
No, I think
newspapers editorialize.
No, I think
the broadcast media analyzes most of the time.
No, because if you analyze, that would be good. I think you editorialize.
Well, that's what we're analyzing. No, that's why we're giving you a chance to respond.
No, I actually don't criticize the media. I just let them do what they need to do, because the voters tend to punish the media the way they punish the politician, by giving an outcome that makes the analyst looks very, very disorganized. See, what I will say is that you can make up your mind to try to create a narrative, because that's the way you need the audience, you need whatever works for you. But on the street, the people are responding to the SDP, people are listening to us, people are asking us questions, people are endorsing us, people are working with us. But in the media, I think there are many factors that work on the mind of the media. They want advert money, they want
well, that's not the case here.
So, for example, before we even go on the campaign to explain to the Nigerian people what we have, they made up their mind and say these are the people they want to work with. Even if you're on the media talking about your policy, they're going to flash the picture of their customer behind you. If you
we've got the picture of the SDP,
which is a good relief tonight. So they're going to do all of that. So we know that democracy is a marketplace.
Right, but rather than spend all this time criticizing the media,
no, I'm just
why don't you walk us through where things now stand with the SDP, especially with you as their presidential candidate?
Okay, where things stand with the SDP now is that, one, we are the leader of the third force, because we are the political party which has presented a third force candidate. That is a candidate that has no history with PDP or APC. The other parties you are banding together, I'm happy that you put them together when you do your
but that's not necessarily the definition of a third force.
That's the definition of the third force.
The third force is an alternative to the two main political parties that have dominated the elections and politics in this country since 1999.
If you are trying to create a third force in America, and you bring George
we're not in America.
I'm just giving an illustration of a place where things appear to work a bit. If you're trying to create a third force in America to defeat Democrats and Republicans, you are not going to bring George Bush and Clinton and say that's your third force. So that's what people are trying to do here, in which case they want to create a third force, they go back to PDP and APC to try to bring somebody. So that's not how to do a third force. How to do a third force is that you go to the people, you go to those who have not been in government before, those who are not part of the problem, those who have a new definition, a new interpretation of the situation. Now, then you let them test that idea. Then you weigh them side by side, the establishment. Doesn't matter how many parties they fractionalize into, you put them on one side, and then you go to the side of the new people, the fresh face, the fresh ideas, and say, allow the electorate. But we, for example, are not doing many things that we could be doing, because we think that if you want to go into government for rule of law, you must start obeying the law. So we're not doing road shows, advertising, 3 million men work, and all of those things that amount to campaigning before the whistle is legally blown. So I would advise the media, if I'm capable of advising the media, that you try to keep your powder dry, hold your pen, hold your microphone, allow us to go to the people. We have state rallies to do, we have local government rallies to do, we have zonal rallies to do, we have federal rallies to do. Let us make our case to the people, and based on how people respond to our message, then you can start doing your profiling. But anything being done now may sound to observer like hatchet work or mercenary work.
No, it's not a hatchet job, and it's not campaigning. We're giving you the opportunity to tell us about yourselves.
Yes.
That's not necessarily campaigning.
No, I'm talking in terms of all the analysis you're doing, where you decide who is number 1, who is number 4, and all of that. I'm saying just hold that judgment, allow us to go to the people. We have our manifesto. We have, for example, everyone knows I'm running on farewell to poverty and insecurity. 30 years ago, we ran on farewell to poverty. You cannot deny from the comfort of your studios that there's no poverty in the country.
Well, nobody's denying.
You cannot deny that there is no insecurity.
The issue is not that there is poverty or insecurity.
You can also not deny
the solution.
You can also deny that the incumbents have found no solutions. So,
but nevertheless, you talk about the incumbent.
Yes.
In 2019, half your party, the SDP, after it became apparent that it did not appear to stand a chance in the election, decided to adopt President Buhari as their candidate.
You said half. This was what happened. Because of the history you have told of litigation in the court, contrary to the constitution of the party, our constitution does not allow you to jump from a primary, which was the person who went to court, has spoken at the primary and said the primary is free and fair and Mr. X won. Now that person somehow became an agent of external forces and dragged the party to court. So the time the party was supposed to go out to campaign, to sell its programs, was under judicial restraint not to do so because the candidate that they elected was prevented from campaigning. Now, at the end, some elements in the party thought that instead of the party sitting out, majority sat out, but some members of the party went and supported individual candidates of their choice, not only at the federal level, but lower levels as well. But the party as a whole did not endorse another person.
Right.
So it's a voluntary organization, and if you are not active, if you are a member of the Celestial Church and you don't open your church for 6 days, I believe that some of your members, when they hear Muslim praying, they will say Amen, because they still want to worship God.
So what do you think that as a presidential candidate, you might be able to strike a chord with the Nigerian electorate?
We are striking a chord with the Nigerian electorate already. Maybe not as much as we are striking. Maybe we are striking a chord with Nigerian people. We are more successful with them than we're successful with the media. We'll work more on the media. We'll do most of the things we're doing. I've been doing consultation now for the past 7 days. So in between the last 7 days, maybe I've had like 12 hours of sleep in 17 days. I'm talking to people. I've been in 3 states today talking to people. But I don't have 250 million naira to spend monthly to every time I cough, the media has to cover me. I don't have 10,000 bloggers on salary tweeting everything. If I blink my eyes, they tweet it. I don't have that kind of money. I'm just a simple lawyer who's trying to be of service to my country. I haven't won a lottery anywhere. So, and what we are trying to do, therefore, is to build from the grassroots. One thing that is not in doubt is that SDP is everywhere. That's why people are having this fantasy of trying to take some of our members everywhere they find them. We are everywhere. And that is why the so-called big parties could not muster more than 700 delegates. We had 1,708 delegates from 8,800 wards coming to the convention. I singularly, with humility, scored the highest number of delegate votes in this current dispensation of all the 18 political parties, and not even a coin, not talk of $1, was found in our premises. So we are working with the people, and that's where we are focused. And when the time comes to count the ballot, you understand there's a Ruto in Nigeria.
Okay. Now, as you look forward to 2023, bearing in mind everything we've been discussing, including the points that you've made, weigh up for us the significance of this moment. What is it that comes through for you in terms of the complexities of the situation?
What I see is that for the first time, Nigerians are admitting that they have a collapse of their governmental system. They're also admitting that the establishment has given up. And the establishment has reached its zenith in 2015-2019. So for the first time, Nigerian people are now not lying down somewhere saying there are some big men, big people taking care of our affairs. They're now looking out for people among themselves that are taking strict actions. They're coming out. And that is what I believe, that if this leads to an SDP government, and for the first time the dividends of democracy, social contract, all the provisions of Section 2 of the Constitution or fundamental objective and directive principle of state policy, if the welfare of the people is now run for 4 years for the Nigerian people, they will never go back to the times of the old. They will always now believe that the election day is the time you determine your destiny, and that you should have an open mind, allow the democracy to work. Our constitution is written on the assumption that an ordinary school teacher, a journalist in the studio, a cameraman, a lawyer, can wake up and arise among the people, sell a vision to the Nigerian people, and the Nigerian people will put such a person in power, and that person will work for the people, and that every time you are coming to power in Nigeria, you will think of the people. You're not going to be in a coven or somewhere waiting for a godfather, right, or a money bag.
Well, we've got less than 30 seconds. Just cast your mind forward to the period following the 2023 presidential election, to perhaps the swearing-in ceremony in May 2023. What do you see?
I see a burden put on SDP and put on my humble self, and I see a determination to see that Nigerian people do not regret going with their God and going away from the establishment, because this country needs a break. This country needs a new beginning. We don't have any more rope. The longest rope has been given to us, and the rope now is tightening around our necks because we've stretched the noose too tight. We need to relieve ourselves. We need to do what is right for the first time. We need to vote a government that has conscience. Patriots need to be in power, not escorting money bags to power. This is what will happen, and that is the beginning of the journey for Nigeria. The victory is when we deliver democracy dividend to the people.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with you in terms of the kind of government that needs to come in. And you've been a very genial guest, and I want to thank you exceedingly for that. And Prince Adewole Adebayo is the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles.